Jake stopped by the next day with groceries: milk, bread, fruit, things we hadn't seen in weeks, and a pack of diapers for Lily, though she'd outgrown them. "Just in case," he said, grinning. He handed me an envelope, his eyes serious. "Open it." Inside was $5,000 in cash, crisp bills that felt unreal. My hands shook, my voice cracking. "Jake, I can't take this." He waved me off, his tone firm. "You bailed me out when I was drowning, man. Gave me $500 for my mom's electric bill, no questions asked. Now it's my turn. Take it." I gripped the envelope, my eyes burning, the weight of his kindness pressing against the guilt I carried. It wasn't just money. It was a lifeline, proof someone still saw us, not as failures, but as people worth saving. We settled into the ranch, helping Amos to earn our keep. I fixed fences, patched the barn, oiled squeaky gates, my hands grateful for work that felt honest. Sarah cooked, her laughter slowly returning as she chopped vegetables, the kitchen filling with smells that reminded me of home. Lily played in the yard, chasing butterflies, her inhaler always close, her giggles a balm for our wounds. She'd run to Amos, tugging his sleeve, asking about the cows, and he'd grunt, hiding a smile, slipping her a peppermint from his pocket. For the first time in months, we felt human again, not ghosts drifting in a truck. But the past haunted me. I'd wake at night, replaying Rachel's sneer, Mom's cold voice, Dad's silence. The memory of that porch, the rain, Lily's coughs, it was a wound that wouldn't heal. I'd sit on the ranch's porch, staring at the stars, my sketchbook open but untouched. Sarah would find me, her hand on my shoulder. "You're still carrying them," she'd say, her voice gentle. I'd nod, unable to speak, because she was right. I wanted to let go, but the hurt clung like damp clothes. Amos was a quiet man, but he had a way of seeing things. One morning, as we mucked out the barn, he handed me a coffee, his eyes sharp under his weathered hat. "You're carrying something heavy, boy. Ain't the cows?" I shrugged, my jaw tight, but he pressed, his voice low. "Family?" I hesitated. Then the words spilled, raw and jagged. Rachel's cruelty, Mom's rejection, Dad's indifference, Ethan's absence. I told him about the porch, the rain, Lily's coughs, the door slamming shut. Amos listened, his face unreadable, then spat in the dirt, his voice gruff. "Blood don't make family. The ones who show up do." He paused, his eyes distant, and I wondered what scars he carried, what doors had closed on him. "You've got your girls," he said. "That's what counts. Rest is just noise." His words stuck, a seed planted in the chaos of my mind. But letting go wasn't that easy. Jake was another anchor. He'd drop by unannounced, his Jeep kicking up dust, a six-pack or a bag of donuts in hand. One evening, as we sat on the porch, the sky orange with sunset, he told me about his own rough years, a divorce, a job loss, nights he'd slept in his car. "Thought I was done," he said, his voice low. If you love stories of resilience, reclaiming justice with style, and rediscovering your worth, hit that subscribe button for Graceful Revenge now. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let's dive into the power of elegant revenge and life's deepest lessons together. Then I remembered folks like you who didn't let me fall, kept me going. His honesty hit hard, a reminder that kindness wasn't just a debt. It was a chain linking us through the dark. Weeks passed, and life felt almost normal, a fragile kind of peace. I started dreaming again, sketching car designs in a notebook, imagining a new shop, one with big windows, and a sign that read, "Michael's Auto, rebuilt stronger." Sarah planted herbs in pots, her hands steady, her smile brighter. She'd hum while cooking, old folk songs from her foster days, and I'd catch Lily copying her voice small but sure. Lily drew pictures of cows, her crayons worn to nubs, and gave them to Amos, who'd pin them on his fridge, grumbling about clutter, but never taking them down. We were healing, stitch by stitch, but I knew it was temporary, a borrowed life we'd have to leave someday. Then, on a humid Friday, everything changed. I was mending a fence, the sun hot on my neck, when Sarah sprinted from the house, her face pale, a crumpled paper in her hand. "Michael!" she shouted, nearly tripping on the porch steps, her voice sharp with urgency. "Look at this!" I dropped the hammer, heart pounding, my mind racing to Lily. "Is it Lily? Is she okay?" "No," Sarah gasped, thrusting the paper at me, her hands trembling. I was sorting Lily's med bag, cleaning out old prescriptions. This was stuck between them. "It's a lottery ticket." I froze, my breath catching. I remembered it. A Mega Millions ticket I'd bought at a gas station after the flood, when I had $3 to my name. We'd stopped for gas, the tank nearly empty, and the clerk had grinned, saying, "Might as well try your luck." I'd picked random numbers, a desperate wish tossed into the void, then shoved the ticket in Lily's med bag, forgetting it in the chaos. "Why's it matter?" I asked, frowning, my voice thick with doubt. Sarah's eyes were wide, her voice trembling, barely above a whisper. "I checked the numbers, Michael. It's a winner." My knees buckled, the air sucked from my lungs. "How much?" I managed, my voice a croak. She swallowed, her hands shaking as she held my gaze. $30 million. The world tilted, colors too bright, sounds too loud. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking so badly I fumbled the screen and pulled up the Alabama lottery site. Sarah read the numbers aloud, her voice unsteady, and I checked them, then again and again, my breath hitching. They matched, every single one. I looked at her, my voice barely audible. "Pinch me, hard." She did, her nails digging into my arm, sharp enough to sting. I laughed, a raw, disbelieving sound, my eyes burning. Sarah covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I almost threw it out," she choked, her voice breaking. "It was in the trash pile, Michael. I was about to toss it." I pulled her close, the ticket trembling in my hand, her sobs shaking us both. The weight on my chest lifted, replaced by a wild, impossible hope. The universe, after breaking us, had thrown us a miracle, a chance to start over. I held Sarah tighter, Lily's laughter drifting from the yard, and for the first time in months, I believed we might be okay. We didn't tell anyone at first, not even Jake or Amos. The next day, I drove to a lawyer's office in Florence, the ticket locked in a Ziploc bag, tucked in my jacket like a bomb. The lawyer, Ellen, was a gray-haired woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense voice. She checked the numbers, her brow furrowing, then looked at me, her voice steady. "This is real, Michael. You've got a jackpot here." She walked us through the process, claiming the prize, taxes, options. I chose the lump sum, practical and certain, my hands still shaking as I signed the forms. After federal taxes at 24% and Alabama's 5%, we'd take home $12.5 million. It wasn't the full $30 million, but it was enough to change everything, enough to give Lily a future, Sarah a home, us a life. The claim process was a whirlwind. We drove to Montgomery, the ticket burning a hole in my pocket, my mind racing with what-ifs. What if it was a mistake? What if it vanished? Sarah held my hand, her fingers steady, grounding me. At the lottery office, officials verified the ticket, their faces professional, but their eyes wide. They handed me a giant check, cameras flashing like gunfire, reporters shouting questions. I didn't smile, just nodded, my mind replaying the nights in the truck. Lily's wheezes, Sarah's quiet sobs. The officials clapped, but they didn't know the door that slammed in our faces or the friend who opened his. All they saw was a winner. I saw a second chance. We stayed quiet about the win, avoiding the spotlight. Jasper was a small town, and news spread like wildfire. I didn't want pity or greed knocking at our door. Ellen became our financial advisor, her office a refuge from the chaos. She asked, "What do you want to protect?" Not, "What do you want to buy?" And I trusted her for it. We set up a trust for Lily's future, ensuring her medical bills would never haunt us again. No more rationing inhalers, no more ER panic. I bought Sarah a modest house on the edge of Florence, a single story with a wide porch and a garden for her roses. It wasn't flashy, but it was peaceful, with big windows and a yard where Lily could run. We moved in quietly, still stunned, the keys heavy in my hand. The house felt like a dream, each room a promise kept. Sarah hung curtains, her hands steady, her smile brighter than I'd seen in years. Lily claimed a bedroom, her stuffed animals lined up like soldiers, her drawings taped to the walls. She'd run outside, chasing fireflies, her laughter louder than her coughs. I'd watch them, Sarah pruning roses, Lily spinning in the grass, and feel something I hadn't in years. Peace, fragile but real. But the past wasn't done with us. 3 weeks after the lottery news broke, I was feeding Amos's cows, the air thick with summer's end, when a black SUV roared up the ranch's drive, kicking up a cloud of red dust. My gut twisted as 3 figures stepped out: Mom, Dad, and Rachel. The headlines had led them here. Jasper Man wins $30 million. I'd known they'd come, but the sight of them, Mom's forced smile, Dad's hunched shoulders, Rachel's calculating eyes, hit harder than I'd expected. Mom approached first, clutching a Tupperware of her pecan pie, her smile brittle, practiced. "Michael, we saw you on the news," she said, her voice too sweet, like she was selling something. "We're so proud of you." Dad lingered behind, hands in his pockets, his face unreadable, his eyes darting to the house. Rachel strode forward, her heels sinking in the dirt, her designer purse gleaming, her eyes glinting with a hunger I knew too well. I set down the feed bucket, my face a mask, my voice flat. "What do you want?" Mom faltered, her hands tightening on the Tupperware. "We just wanted to see you, honey. Is Sarah here? And Lily, how's she doing?" "They're fine," I said, my tone cold, cutting through her pretense. "You didn't answer my question." Dad cleared his throat, his voice forced casual, like he was bargaining at a flea market. "Look, Michael, Rachel's got a business deal. Real estate, big potential. Needs a little capital to get off the ground. Family helps family, right?" Rachel jumped in, her tone slick, rehearsed. "It's a sure thing, Michael. Luxury condos, prime location. You'd be investing in us in the family name. We'd make you proud." I stared, a cold laugh escaping me, sharp and bitter. "Family?" I stepped closer, my voice low, each word deliberate, carved from the pain I'd carried. Where was family when I begged for a corner to sleep in? When Lily couldn't breathe and Sarah cried herself to sleep? You said I was a failure, Rachel. A nobody dragging his family down. Your words, not mine. Now you're here because I've got something you want. Rachel's smile faltered, her cheeks flushing, her eyes narrowing. Mom's gaze dropped to the ground, her hands twisting the Tupperware lid. Dad shifted, muttering, "That was different, son." Times were tough. "No," I said, my voice steel, unyielding. It wasn't. I locked eyes with Rachel, my heart steady, the hurt sharpening my words. You told me, help you. With what? You're nothing but a failure. Remember that night, Rachel? Rain pouring, Lily coughing, us standing on your porch like beggars? You laughed. You shut the door. I paused, letting the memory hang, heavy as the air. Now I've got $30 million. So tell me, Rachel, what do you have to offer? Silence stretched, thick and suffocating, broken only by the distant lowing of cows. Rachel's face reddened, her lips parting, but no words came. Mom's eyes welled, but she didn't speak. Dad looked away, his jaw tight, his hands balling into fists. I picked up the pie container, set it gently on the fence, not thrown, but not accepted, and nodded, my voice calm. Thanks for the pie, but we don't need it. Dad's shoulders slumped, his voice low. Michael, don't be like this, Mom whispered. Please, honey, her voice breaking, but it was too late. Rachel spun on her heel, stalking back to the SUV, her purse swinging like a weapon. They left without another word, the dust cloud fading like their promises. I stood there, the bucket at my feet, and felt no anger, just clarity. Some doors, once closed, stay shut, no matter who comes knocking. We stayed at the ranch a while longer, not because we had to, but because it felt right. Amos had given us more than a roof. He'd given us dignity, a chance to stand again. He never asked for thanks, just grumbled about his cows and sipped coffee on the porch, his eyes sharp under his hat. One morning, as we fixed a tractor, I pulled out a check for $1 million, sliding it across the workbench. This is for you, I said, my voice steady, for opening your door when no one else did. Amos glanced at the check, his face unreadable, then pushed it back, his eyes sharp, his voice gruff. Don't need it, boy. Got my cows, my land. But if you want to do right, start a fund for folks like you, small-town dreamers who lose everything to floods, fires, or banks. Keep their doors open so they don't end up like you did. His words hit deep, a call to something bigger, a purpose beyond myself. I nodded, tucking the check away, my throat tight. I'll do it, I said, and meant it, the seed he'd planted taking root. Jake was next. I met him at the ranch, the sun low, painting the fields gold. I handed him a check for $1 million, my hand steady. He laughed, shaking his head, his eyes crinkling. You're crazy, Michael. You drove through a storm for us, I said, my voice firm. Paid for Lily's hospital stay, gave us a home. This is the least I owe you. He tore the check in half, his grin fading, his voice serious. Use it for kids like Lily, man, the ones who can't breathe, whose parents can't afford the fight. That's what matters. He paused, his eyes distant, and I saw the weight he carried, his own losses, his own fights. You don't owe me, he said. You paid it forward a long time ago. I didn't argue. Jake's heart was bigger than his wallet, and I respected that. Instead, I took his advice, and Amos's, and poured my energy into something new. I launched the Lily Fund, a charity to support kids with chronic illnesses and small businesses hit by disasters. We started with $2 million, funding hospital bills for kids in Jasper, grants for flood-damaged shops in Florence, scholarships for dreamers who'd lost their way. The local paper ran a story showing me at a children's hospital, handing over a check, Lily beside me, her smile brighter than the cameras. I didn't smile for the photos, but inside, I felt something shift. Purpose, maybe, or peace. The fund wasn't just a project, it was a promise. I hired a team, local folks who'd seen hard times, who knew what it meant to lose everything. There was Maria, a single mom who'd rebuilt her bakery after a fire, her hands quick and her laugh warm. She handled grants, her eyes sharp for scams. Then Tom, a former farmer who'd lost his land to drought, his voice steady as he vetted applications. They became family too, their stories weaving into ours, a reminder that pain wasn't ours alone, but wealth brought new challenges. Jasper buzzed with gossip. Some called me a hero, others a fluke. Old customers stopped by the new house, not for repairs but for handouts, their smiles too wide. A local reporter dug into our past, her article kind but prying, splashing our truck days across the front page. Strangers sent letters, some begging, some threatening, their words a reminder that money didn't erase vulnerability. I hired a security firm, low-key but firm, to keep the vultures at bay. Sarah worried, her eyes scanning the yard at night, but I held her close. "We're safe," I'd say, hoping it was true. The hardest part was adjusting to the weight of wealth. I'd walk into the new house, its floors gleaming, and feel like an imposter. Sarah would catch me staring at the fridge, stocked with food we'd never afford before, and tease, "It's not going anywhere, Michael." But the fear lingered, a whisper that this could vanish, that we'd wake up in the truck again. Lily didn't care about the money. She'd run through the house, her bunny trailing, asking for ice cream or a new crayon set. Her simplicity grounded us, a reminder of what mattered. We rebuilt slowly, piece by piece. I started planning a new shop, not to run, but to teach. Free classes for kids who loved engines, who needed a chance like I did. Sarah enrolled in night classes, studying botany, her dream of a nursery taking shape. She'd come home, her notes scattered, her eyes bright, and I'd fall in love all over again. Lily thrived, her asthma controlled with better meds, her laughter filling the house. She'd draw pictures for the fund, her cows and roses taped to our office walls, each one a step toward healing. That's when my family came back, one last time, their return as inevitable as the seasons. It was a cold December day, the air sharp with frost, the ground hard underfoot. I was pruning Sarah's roses, the clippers cold in my hand, my breath visible in the chill. Lily was inside, coloring, her voice drifting through the window. Sarah was baking, the smell of bread warm and grounding. Then their SUV screeched to a stop, shattering the quiet, kicking up gravel like a warning shot. Rachel stormed out first, her face twisted, her coat too thin for the cold. Mom followed, her eyes red, clutching a scarf like a lifeline. Dad trailed last, his shoulders hunched, his glare heavy. Rachel's voice was a snarl, cutting through the frost. "You're giving millions to strangers, but nothing to us. We're your blood, Michael." Mom's voice cracked, her words spilling fast, desperate. "You're ungrateful, throwing it in our faces. We raised you, gave you everything, and now you turn your back?" Dad stepped forward, his voice low, angry. $2 million for some charity, and you can't spare a dime for your own? You're a disgrace." I set down the clippers, my hands steady, my voice calm as stone. The article about the Lily Fund had lit this fuse, my photo in the paper a beacon they couldn't ignore. I'd expected their anger, but its rawness stung, a fresh cut on an old scar. "You had your chance to be family," I said, each word measured, sharp. "You chose a closed door." Rachel lunged closer, her finger jabbing, her voice rising. "You think you're better than us? You're nothing without that money, Michael. A loser playing hero with cash you didn't earn." I didn't flinch, my eyes locked on hers. "I was something when I had nothing. You just didn't see it." I pulled out my phone, dialed 911, and spoke clearly, my voice unwavering. "There's a disturbance at my property. Verbal threats. I need officers. Rachel's eyes widened, her voice a shriek. You're calling the cops on us? Your own family? My wife's scared, I said, glancing at Sarah watching from the porch, her face pale, her hands gripping the railing. My daughter's inside. This ends now. Dad grabbed Rachel's arm, pulling her back, his face red. You're making a mistake, boy, Mom sobbed, her scarf falling, but I didn't waver. Rachel spat. You'll regret this, her words venomous, but they bounced off me, empty. They piled into the SUV, tires spinning, and left, the gravel settling like their lies. I stood there, the phone heavy in my hand, the frost biting my fingers. Sarah came out, her arms wrapping around me, her warmth grounding. You okay? She whispered. I nodded, my voice low. Yeah, it's done. And it was. I filed restraining orders the next day, their names entered into the system, a legal line they couldn't cross. I walked away free, not from anger, but from their hold on me, a chain I'd carried too long. Life moved forward, brighter, fuller. Sarah's garden bloomed, roses spilling over the porch, their scent a daily gift. She'd spend hours there, her hands in the dirt, her botany books open, dreaming of greenhouses and seedlings. Lily ran in the yard, her laughter stronger than her coughs, her bunny trailing like a shadow. She'd started school, her backpack too big, her stories endless, friends, teachers, a world opening for her. Her asthma was managed, her meds a routine, not a crisis, and every clear breath felt like a victory. I visited Amos's ranch every Sunday, not for long, just enough to ground myself. He'd be there, feeding cows, his grumbles hiding a smile. We'd talk about the fund, the weather, anything but the past, and I'd leave lighter, his wisdom a compass. Jake dropped by our house, his Jeep a familiar sight, his stories keeping us laughing. He'd joined the funds board, his ideas bold, mobile clinics, trade schools, ways to reach deeper. He never mentioned that night in the rain, but I saw it in his eyes, a bond forged in crisis. The Lily Fund grew, a living thing, its roots spreading. We funded a clinic in Jasper, its doors opened kids who'd never had care. We rebuilt a bakery in Florence, its owner crying as she needed dough again. Scholarships went to dreamers, mechanics, artists, farmers who'd lost their way. I hired Maria and Tom, their hands steady, their hearts big. Maria would hug Lily, her laugh infectious, while Tom taught me about grants, his patience endless. They weren't just staff, they were family, their stories woven into ours. Wealth changed us, but not in the ways I'd feared. I'd walk into the house, its floors gleaming, and feel like me, not an imposter. Sarah would tease, "You're staring at the fridge again," and I'd laugh, the fear of loss fading. Lily didn't care about money. She'd ask for ice cream, her eyes bright, and I'd buy a gallon just because I could. The shop plans grew, a community space now, with tools for kids to learn, to build. I'd teach, not fix, passing on what Mr. Carter gave me. The fund's first gala was in March, a modest event at a Florence community center. I spoke to donors, doctors, families we'd helped, my voice steady, Lily's drawings on the walls. She sat in the front row, her dress blue as her eyes, clapping loudest when I finished. Sarah squeezed my hand, her smile brighter than the lights. I didn't talk about the truck, the flood, or the door that slammed. I talked about hope, about doors that open when you least expect it, about family you choose. After, Jake pulled me aside, a beer in his hand. "You did good, man," he said, his grin wide. "Better than most." "You started it," I said, my voice low. "That night in the rain." He laughed, shaking his head. Nah, you were always gonna make it. I just gave you a push. Amos was there, leaning on his cane, his eyes sharp. Fun's doing all right, he said, his voice gruff. Keep it honest. Always, I said, and he nodded, a rare smile breaking through. That night, as Sarah and I tucked Lily into bed, she hugged her bunny, her voice sleepy. Daddy, are we rich now? I kissed her forehead, my heart full. We're rich in what matters, kiddo. She smiled, her eyes closing. I like our house. It smells like Mommy's roses. Sarah laughed, her hand in mine, warm and sure. We stood there, watching Lily sleep, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. The truck, the flood, the rejection. They were scars, not wounds. They'd shaped us, but they didn't define us. I used to think blood was everything, that family was a bond you couldn't break. I was wrong. Blood can slam a door in your face, leave you in the rain with a sick child and a broken heart. Family is the hand that pulls you up, the door that opens when the world shuts you out. Jake, Amos, Sarah, Lily, Maria, Tom. They were my family, built from trust, not obligation. So I ask you, the ones who've stayed till the end, if you were me, would you forgive the family who turned you away? Would you open that door again just because of blood? Or would you choose what I did? Build a new family with those who never let you fall? Share your thoughts below. I want to hear them. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Family isn't where you start. It's where you're welcomed home. See you in the graceful revenge.